for transforming the food system, what sort of balance do we need to see, if we even know, between divestment from factory farming and investment in alternatives and impact investing? Kelly, maybe we can start with you on this one.
Sure, thank you. So from Pivot's perspective, we need as much divestment as possible from animal agriculture and as much investment as possible into plant-based alternative proteins, cultivated proteins, non-animal based alternatives. So that we are firmly rooted there. From our perspective, divestment can obviously weaken large food companies' financial positions, their access to credit, their ability to expand, their ability to continue operating the way they are. But more broadly, divestment can call attention to the various risks, not only to investors, but also to all stakeholders, to all citizens, to all people living on the planet, can bring attention to the various risks involved in factory farming. And that's what we're really looking to do, to both diminish large food companies' financial power and also educate the broader public about the risks involved so that they can become more involved, so that they can understand, wait, I don't want my university's endowment to be involved in factory farming. Look at what it does to people, look at what it does to animals, look at what it does to the planet, look what it does to the potential for long-term returns. These companies are not sustainable. I don't want my college, and I'm investing in my education, I don't want my college to be invested in companies that are not only doing damage, but are unlikely to perform over the long term because their practices are not sustainable. They're not physically sustainable, they're not financially sustainable. So I'm speaking about divestment, but I'm just trying to educate your listeners about why divestment is important. It's not just about what it can do to companies, it's about how it can inform everyone, every stakeholder who can get involved, whether they're investors or not. And here, I want to make clear, because this conversation is about investment, but there's so much that people who aren't in the markets can do to become involved in transforming the food system, particularly on the divestment side. I've referred to students who can influence their endowments, employees who can influence their employers, their pensions, the financial managers who are looking at their pension funds, who need to be more responsible, who are hearing from their stakeholders that they need to look at this industry. And preferably, from the stakeholders' perspective, if the stakeholder is saying this, divest from the industry. And the more conversation we have about this, the more attention we can draw to it, then the more people are going to understand this industry. It's not just fossil fuels. There are other industries that are very damaging, that are damaging to investors, that are damaging to the environment, that are damaging to people, that people can become empowered to invest in various ways in the world that they want to see. So on the other hand, of course, we need investment in alternatives because we are a growing population. We do need to feed ourselves, 10 billion people by 2050. And as we get there, it's not going to be enough, in our view, for plant-based and non-animal-based to rise X, while animal-based rises Y. So this is also part of the reason that we're focused on moving money out of traditional animal ag and into sustainable, healthier for everyone alternatives, healthier also for investors.
Claire?
I was wondering if Sucheta wanted to say something, because I just seem to be jumping in all over the place.
Well, we're happy to hear from you, Claire. But yeah, I think that definitely we are all in the market. So maybe you're not in the market individually, but I definitely agree with Kelly's point that in Canada you have, maybe it's your union, maybe it's your school, certainly it's the Canada Pension Plan. So getting involved in the divestment movement and targeting any of those areas, I think is something that everybody can do, whether or not they have an individual portfolio. I think that in the end, one of the analogies that I've heard that I like to use is we're all aiming to get to the same place, and we are maybe taking different paths to get there. So divestment is one path, and certainly investment in alternatives is another path. And then trying to kickstart research into alternatives is also something that perhaps some people would be able to do that not everybody can do. So I think whatever it is you're doing, whether you're using your investment dollar, whether you're using your power as part of a group, whether you're using your consumer dollar, it's just important that you do something. So I would say that within this, whether that's on the divestment side or on the encouraging investment side, you just want to get involved.
I think that it's beholden to a lot of to as many people who can to divest. Why? Because there's a very, very large amount of money which is run to passive strategies on market benchmarks. An increasing amount, in actual fact, in the last sort of 10, 15 years, more money has gone to passive strategies than it's gone away from active. So this is creating an issue in terms of price discovery, because passive funds do not trade. They basically only trade when things come out of the index. So I think it's beholden to anybody who can choose their portfolio to come out of these stocks. And my hope is that we will see these stocks fall out of the benchmark indices. There's some 10 trillion of assets that are tracking the S&P 500 that are owning a number of, large meat companies, etc. Because they say they have to, because that's what their mandate is, and they can't deviate from their mandate. If we can find some way to push these stocks out of the S&P 500, that's $10 trillion worth of money that will drop these stocks like a stone, because they don't have to own them anymore. So that's my goal.
Yeah, and I would just chip in that definitely has happened on the fossil fuel side. So this isn't a sort of pie in the sky, maybe this would happen. We have seen this happen in the past couple of years with fossil fuel companies. So it's definitely, it's something we could do.
This is a bit of a theme now that we're hearing, and it's not just in this panel, but between what you guys are saying, but the maybe underappreciated or underfocused power that the individual has in terms of doing their own investigation, asking hard questions, or even curious ones. It's something I actually tell people to do when it comes to policy around diet. A lot of life insurance companies now are starting to investigate what Medicare has done with the Dean Ornish program, which is to start offering lower premiums to people who are following low-fat, whole food, plant-based diets. And I always encourage people to just ask their own insurance provider, why aren't you doing this? What are some good ways for individuals to vote with their dollars from an investment perspective? What are the sort of thought processes or options out there to make an impact with our investment dollars? And perhaps even what might be a good investment idea for vegans right now? We can start with you, Sucheta.
So I think for everybody out there who is in Canada, the Responsible Investment Association is Canada's umbrella organization for responsible investment. They have something called the RI Marketplace, which does cover broadly all responsible investments, but it's a good starting point. And then you can take a look at what's available there. And then you have to dig a little bit deeper and say, okay, how many of these are focused on what I'm particularly interested in, whether that's some combination probably of fossil fuel divestment, animal rights, humane treatment of animals, antimicrobial resistance, not testing on animals. So then you have to do a little work. And sometimes with products like exchange traded funds and mutual funds, looking at the prospectus, you don't have to read the whole thing. I know they're really big, but just going to those specific pages around exclusions and what they're investing in will help. There are also, there's a list of responsible investment advisors on the RI website as well. And I think probably everybody on that list would be happy to have a 20-minute phone call with you if you get overwhelmed by the choices that are on there, and kind of talk you through which ones are focusing on plant-based proteins and animal rights, factory farming, cruelty-free investing.
Great, thanks. Claire?
Obviously I'm going to say that there was an ETF that was launched last year, which was I guess, tailored to the concerns of vegans and environmentalists, and we'd very much appreciate anybody looking at it from the perspective of investment, and we do believe that it addresses these concerns in a way that no other ETF that we're aware of addresses them. But it's not only for vegans, it also has you know, it also has a lot of power in terms of its approach in terms of any kind of environmental damage, mostly because of the way that animal agriculture is hurting us in terms of water usage and in terms of waste products, and obviously the additional greenhouse gases that you can get out of your portfolio over and above by excluding animal agriculture, over and above simply going fossil fuel free. So that's my little, you know, promotional aspect there. I think other than that, you know, using certain other types of platforms, I think As You Sow is also very good at investigating the holdings of other funds, and they are ranking our VGN as well. But you can certainly look at other funds there. And I'm also aware of some new products that are coming out in terms of apps that are including these kind of criteria, particularly around ESG, that may be helpful to people if they want to put together some of their own portfolios and investigate individual stocks. Because in actual fact, I mean, ESG data is fairly hard to come by and can be quite expensive and is mainly bought by the asset managers. It's has been hitherto less available to individuals, but that's something that is starting to change. I'd like to encourage people also to join a platform which I've created, which is called Beyond Animal. And our intent with that platform is to bring some non-listed equity, some private equity, venture capital deals to investors, obviously, you know, with the appropriate safeguards in place in terms of the you know, the financial status of those investors, the country, according to obviously the regulatory guidelines that or rules that are in place in each country. We have an ethical investor survey on that platform that people can complete that already will tell us the kind of things that people are interested in, so we know, you know, where to go, so we can orient ourselves towards the kind of deals that people are looking for. So that's a few ideas on my side that we, you know, we would certainly appreciate and that are actionable now.
Great, thanks. Kelly?
Yeah, thank you. And Claire, the Beyond Animal platform is fantastic. I use it myself. There are so many resources there. Thank you for creating it. Thank you for everything you do. In terms of opportunities, obviously the vegan ETF, and you can invest in Beyond Meat, but there's so much more that people can do outside of the market. And I think I want to call attention to this again, that if you're investing in transforming the food system, you can think about your investment in different ways. So yes, when you have money available, there will be opportunities and increasing opportunities, I think we can all agree, to invest in this space. But until that time, you can invest your time, your most valuable asset. You can support organizations with your time. And I've done this for a number of organizations, and it's actually how I've ended up here. You can spend your time educating yourself. You can make small donations, even the smallest ones count, to organizations like GFI, the Good Food Institute, that's behind a lot of these big launches. They do a tremendous amount of research. They also connect companies with investors. They are helping make these things happen. They were a very significant influencer in Beyond Meat. So if you don't have a lot, just being invested in that way, in the movement, in Pivot, please look at what we're doing. Again, we're building our resource library so that you can become more aware of the various risks and how to navigate them and how to make investment decisions when the time comes for you to make investment decisions if it hasn't already. So again, I just want to call out that larger notion of investment, and we're all stakeholders in this. We are all invested in transforming the food system and transforming industries more generally, environmentally damaging industries and another way damaging industries. So get involved. Everything's a good investment. Get involved.
I love it. Actually, and for GFI's perspective, we didn't have Bruce or anybody from there participate this year in speaking, but there is a panel that does cover a lot of interesting and engaging content on the future of lab-grown meat and cellular agriculture. I encourage people to check that panel out, and it features our own Nathaniel Erskine-Smith and Isha Datar and some others, and it's moderated by Liz Marshall, who directed the film Meet the Future. And to your guys' points, like this is an area where, you know, individually we all take notice too at possibilities and alternatives that are coming down the pipeline. We can be poised for an even more exciting future.